So in this lesson, we're going to look at seller feedback and your seller rating. I'm going to show you what it is, why it's important, and we'll take a look at some different ways that you can manage it. Let's take a look at seller feedback and your seller rating. We're going to look at what it is and how to find a seller's feedback, including your own, why it's important, how to get almost all negative seller feedback removed, and then finally we'll look at converting seller feedback into reviews. So let's take a look at some seller feedback, including your own. When you're in Amazon or any buyers in Amazon and you're searching for a product, now let's just take a look for the old iPhone 5 case and we'll see who comes up here. So the very first listing that comes up is this product from JE Tech. So if we jump in here and we take a look at the sold by JE Direct, we click on that, it's going to take us to this about page. Now when you get your product set up, you're going to have a page that looks exactly like this, and it will list your product. We can see this seller has quite a few products. And on the top left-hand side here, we can see their feedback rating, and it's just a summary. So they have 4.9 stars over the past year, and they have almost 30,000 ratings. So these guys have done a really good job of maintaining a very high seller feedback rating. Now on the right-hand side, we can see the most recent feedback. Of course, we can see all feedback if we want to. And you can see 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5. They've got a whole bunch of 5 out of 5s. And we can see their feedback history as well here. How many have been positive, neutral, negative, and the total number. And this goes back over the last 365 days and then back over the entire lifetime that this brand or this seller has been around. So again, these guys have done a really good job. Now, if you are selling a product and competing against others, which we generally aren't because we're private labeling, so we don't normally ever have anyone competing against the buy box with us. But if you were one of those sellers, let's say you're selling, bottles of Coca-Cola, you might have hundreds and hundreds of other sellers competing against you. And you could see how important your seller feedback would be because you're competing against them with your seller feedback, your price, that type of thing. And it's a very, very important metric that Amazon tracks. Now for us, we're not competing against anyone, so it's not that vital, but it still is a very important metric that Amazon will rank your account on. So you want to make sure you stay on top of it, you're getting good seller feedback, and you're managing it. Now I've just come over into a Seller Central account and I'm going to show you where you can find your seller rating, and you can also respond to any feedback and manage that feedback. So how I got here was I just went into performance and then feedback, and it shows up on this page. And much like that About Us page, it's giving us our rating over the past 12 months. You can see 4.9 stars, 721 ratings total. You can see the performance over 30 to 365 days, and then the lifetime. Now on the bottom here, it's the most recent feedback chronologically. You can see here these ratings and the dates. There'll be some comments under here. And then there's some questions that the buyer would fill out. Yes or no, did it arrive on time? Was it described? You'll get an order ID. It's very important. That order ID, that's how you'll be responding to people, and I'll showing you that in a moment. And then finally, there's the encrypted email. Now, as I mentioned, the seller feedback is intended to provide customers with that opportunity to provide feedback on a seller, not on the product sold by the seller. That would be a product review. However, what always ends up happening is customers use it to provide feedback on a product. And if it's not a very good review, then it's going to lower your feedback rating, obviously. Most people want to keep their seller feedback as high as possible, obviously, and most people will try and get rid of anything 4-star or below. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily want to get rid of 4 stars. Maybe it's a brand new seller. You might get a few in there. You might want to leave them if they're particularly good reviews, but only a 4-star. But eventually, most people tend to want to just retain the 5-star reviews. So let's take a look at removing the negative seller feedback that comes in. And this is a technique that we use all the time. It's very, very effective, and it virtually eliminates almost all of that negative seller feedback that comes in. So what you do is you come into your account and you take a look at your rating that came in that you're not happy with. So here's a 3-star rating that just recently came in, and there's you look at the comment and you see. I mean, sometimes you can get a 3-star rating and have a very positive comment, but you just don't want that 3-star rating there because it's bringing down your feedback rating. So most of the time, the comment will have something to do with the product or be a product review, or if it's a delivery issue, if it's fulfilled by Amazon and there's any kind of a delivery issue, they didn't get it on time, or they say it was never delivered or whatever, those can be removed as well. And what you want to do is just want to come over and grab the order ID. So just copy the order ID, then go to the bottom of the page and click on Contact Seller Support. Now, once you've clicked on that Contact Seller Support link at the bottom of the page, you can just go in here and it'll ask you, say, selling on Amazon. Yes, it's a selling on Amazon issue. Customers and orders, customer feedback. Then basically you just plug in you copy or you paste in the order ID that we copied from our Feedback Manager page. And then from here, Amazon's going to give you some options to select the reason that you're appealing the feedback. So you can see language, if there's anything obscene in there. There's some personal information in there. Product feedback, so we'll check that off if that is indeed the case. Or if it's an FBA issue, so if it's regarding anything to do with FBA, or if it's some other issue. And at the bottom here, for a typical product review that's been given as a seller feedback, I'll just say something like, please remove, this is a product review. And that's it. And you'll find that sometimes immediately they'll be removed, or usually within 24 hours. So this is a fantastic way to manage your customer feedback rating and keep it as high as possible. So the last thing we're going to look at here regarding your seller feedback is converting your seller ratings into reviews. Now, as I mentioned, you're going to get a lot of seller feedbacks that are actually product reviews or contain elements of a review. And most buyers simply just don't understand the difference between seller feedback and a product review. We don't want to blame the customer or tell them they did something wrong, so instead we'll put the blame on Amazon and say that Amazon has put their product review in the wrong place. To do this, you're going to need to contact the customer directly. Click on an order number, then the customer name. So if you remember back in Feedback Manager, they give you the order ID number. You just click on that. It'll bring up that person's order ID and click on their name, and you can send them a message directly. Now you want to write a fairly simple message to the customer asking them to post the feedback as a product review. And you can use this method whenever you see feedback in the form of a review. And there's no need to necessarily remove the seller feedback unless it's bringing down your rating. Now, I'm not going to provide a template for everyone to use to send a letter off to their customers. Otherwise, everybody will end up using the exact same wording. But really, it's a very simple message, and these are the components that you probably want to have in there. You probably want to just say hello and use the customer's name. You want to thank them for leaving the feedback and the seller feedback rating, and explain that it appears that Amazon has put that rating in the wrong place, and instead they've made it as a seller feedback and not as a product review. And you need to ask very nicely if they wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes and posting it as a review. Now you can paste their entire seller feedback into the email so the customer can just copy and paste that in as a product review if you want. And then you need to give them the link to submit a review for your product. Just make it as easy as possible for them. You can tell them that they can just copy and paste that feedback into the review form. It'll only take a couple of minutes, and make sure you add that they understand that they're very busy and you really appreciate their help. Thank them again for their seller feedback and for being a customer. And that's all you really need to do. And you're going to find by doing this, you'll be able to convert a lot of those seller feedbacks into product reviews and get double the bang for your buck.